There we are. Alrighty, it's 9 o'clock. We'll get this show on the road here. Is there any additions to the agenda? We'll go to administration first.
A couple of additions, Reeve. Item number 21 would be Brazeau Foundation, a report from Cody, Councillor Brooks, that was submitted. And item number 13 under correspondence, we have some information from Breton Food Bank.
Okay. Any other additions to the councillors? Anthony?
Rudy, a conversation that Lee just may have had with you, were we going to perhaps consider moving one of the items to enclosed rather than where it is currently?
To Councillor Heinrich, we do have some additional closed session information on the Fin 7, but my thought was, Reeve, that when we get to that item on the agenda, we'll move to closed and then come back and do the public portion of that that agenda item.
All right, it'll achieve the same thing.
Just by going back and forth, and we get comments, going back and forth in closed so much, where if we just put it in there right away, it's more cleaner.
Either way, it's gonna work out the same. Donna?
I'm trying to print out a report for ECDC, but it's just one of my reports.
Okay, that's fine. All right, if there's no other additions, a motion to accept the agenda with the amendments. Kara?
I move the agenda as amended.
Discussion, all those in favor? Carried unanimous. The minutes of September 3rd, any corrections or any omissions or errors? And if there's none, a motion to approve the minutes as presented. Della?
Sure, I'll move to adopt the minutes as presented.
Discussion, all those in favor? Carried unanimous. Any business arising? Seeing none, follow-up action list. Rudy, would you highlight anything you need to highlight?
A couple of items completed, Reeve, that I would bring to Council's attention. First of all, as we've already discussed in our agenda conversation, Fin 7 policy work has been completed, and so through our meeting today, we hope to complete that conversation. The request by Council to get additional information from the Central Alberta Economic Partnership regarding their October 11th meeting has been gathered and presented, so Council can make further decisions today regarding that event. And as per closed meeting request, we have contacted the operator regarding the two tender items discussed last meeting in closed, and those will be brought forward for further information for Council in closed session today.
Okay, a motion to accept the CAO's report for information. Donna?
I move to accept the CAO's report for information.
Okay. The procedural bylaw, Rudy, are you? Oh, yeah, all in favor, right? Just trying to save time, Cody. Okay, procedural bylaws, go ahead, Rudy.
So a couple of things, Reeve. Items A and B under CAO report are somewhat connected based on previous conversations, and just in terms of a little bit of background, there's been a challenge with adhering to our procedural bylaw while trying to make adjustments at our organizational meeting with respect to committee wants, needs, and desires, and the function of those various committees of council. So based on our conversations, administration is recommending just the deletion of the committee terms from the procedural bylaw that will allow for that natural flexibility at the organizational meeting when council is setting committee members and committee terms. So the adjustment would be to 4.8 of the procedural bylaw, which would remove the reference to committee terms from our procedural bylaw. Considering that this is a fairly minor amendment, administration is recommending that council undertake all three readings of that bylaw change today.
just take 4.8 right out.
4.8 is just, if you look in your package, I think we've just drawn a line through the minor item referencing committee terms would just be deleted, and the remainder of 4.8 would remain in the procedural bylaw.
That's on page 21, just to make sure I'm looking at the same spot.
Yes, page 21, item 4.8, we're just removing the reference to terms. The remainder of 4.8 would remain.
Okay. Everybody got that? If there's no problem, we can give all 3 readings. Anybody want to give first reading to get the ball rolling? Anthony?
I move first reading to bylaw 1190-24.
Discussion? All those in favor? Carried unanimous. Somebody wish to give second reading? Dallas?
I'll move second reading, 1190-24 procedural bylaw.
Discussion? All those in favor? Motion to go to third reading? Cody?
I move to go to third reading for procedural bylaw 1190-24.
Nice emphasis on the go. All those in favor? Kara?
I move third reading of bylaw 1184-24.
Discussion?
Sorry, 1190. My
That's what-
apologies.
That's what she meant.
Yeah.
All right. All those in favor? Carried unanimous. Okay, the guidelines, 35 to 38. What are you suggesting there?
Based on the conversations with council, now that the procedural bylaw has been updated, we've added more information to the policy that defines how committees are struck and the items that are considered. And so we ask that council accept this policy as an updated policy for use as a committee appointee selection guideline policy.
Okay. The policy is on 37.
The main items that council wished to be added were the clarity around defining applications for membership under item number 3.
Was there comments about the, didn't see them, about the deadlines? We always say that there's a deadline, and then we allow it to people to be appointed right on the day of organizational meeting.
Our understanding was that while we had the conversation, previously we've been accepting deadlines right up until the day of the organizational meeting, and my understanding was that council did not wish to change that at this point.
Right. It's just funny, it's a deadline that'll be accepted right up, you know, if there's not a fixed date. All right, Cody?
Yes, so on page 37, number 3F, we have previous board experience and knowledge of Robert's Rules of Order. I don't know if I want to change Robert's Rules of Order, but I think we should have procedural bylaw. And the reason that I think that is because there are a few differences between Robert's Rules and our procedural bylaw. One example that I'm pretty sure I'm right about, I could be wrong, but is that in closed in Robert's Rules, I think you're allowed to make motions, whereas in our procedural bylaw, we're not allowed to do that. So I'm just maybe suggesting we add procedural bylaw to 3F.
So you're saying Robert's Rules allows for motions within closed?
Yeah, there's just a few differences between Robert's Rules and our procedural bylaw. And because while our procedural bylaw does reference Robert's Rules in some cases, the procedural bylaw does take precedence. So I think that we should just add, we don't even have to take Robert's Rules of Order out, we just add procedural bylaw to the end of 3F.
So it's just one more thing to consider when appointing people. And consider has a lot of flexibility in that word. Did you consider it? Yes?
Yeah, so if there's any discussion, I could add that, but
Well, I'll just hear from Kara
Yeah.
first, and then,
Maybe just more discussion, and Anthony, help me out. I thought our procedural bylaw rules and then Robert rules, if it's silent in our procedural bylaw, that's when we fall back to Robert's rules. So I don't know if we need to add that in there because our procedural bylaw is here, Robert's rules is under here.
Cody?
the reason I would add it is because you're right, so our procedural bylaw does take precedence, but 3F does not mention our procedural bylaw, it mentions Robert's rules. And so that's why I would add it.
Anthony?
I would agree with Cody's comment. I think if we're going to wish for our individuals to be more aware of the processes that we operate our committees with, then we should clearly point to our procedure bylaw, because it's not a big deal if they're going to take the time to look at one piece of regulation, they might as well look at ours. So I would suggest it makes more sense for us to change that, or at least an addition to Brazeau County procedure bylaw.
Okay, so we should probably have a motion so that it's clearly outlined. Cody?
Okay, so I move to add the wording "and procedural bylaw" to the end of 3F on page 37.
So that'll be I. Oh, F.
Yep.
Because we've got E, F, G, H already. Why wouldn't we just call it I? Pardon me, Cody?
We don't need to make a new item, we would just be adding on to F. It
Oh,
would
I
just be
see
on the
what
end
you
of the
wanna do.
sentence, yeah.
So Robert's Rules of Order and our procedural bylaw? Okay. That makes sense now. Discussion? All those in favor? That's carried unanimous. So now we need to pass the policy. That was just changing 3F. Glenn, you want to get your name in the minutes here?
I will. I move that council approves as amended with 3F, the wording procedural bylaw at the end, the attached Council 8 at-large appointee selection guidelines policy.
Discussion? All those in favor? Carried unanimous. So that covers 4B. We are now on, all the way down to community services. Pardon me? 58. Oh, the bank reconciliation. Thanks. 7A.
Good morning, Council. As mentioned on page 58 of your agenda, you will find the bank reconciliation as of August 31st, 2024. As per the usual administration requests council receive for information, or if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, he'll be happy if you ask a question.
An easy one.
Donna?
I move to receive for information the bank reconciliation for the as of August 31st, 2024.
Discussion? All those in favor? Carried unanimous. All right, now community, who's looking after that? Is Lee here, or? Tina, while we're waiting for Lee, is there any way to get a hold of Alpha Link? I think we'll be done before 1:15. I don't know if there is or not, or whether,
It's at 10 and 10:30.
yeah, I'm thinking like, 11:30 or something like that, just because instead of waiting till,
I'll see if I can reach him.
yeah, if they could move it up a half an hour or. Council is being very efficient today. Lee, you're up.
Are we not going to do this in private, sorry? Or
So yes, this is the item, Reeve, where we wish to have a quick conversation in closed session under FOIP Section 16 regarding this item prior to the public presentation.
Okay, somebody want to make a motion to go in closed? Anyone? Go ahead, Glenn.
I move to go and close for Community Organization Funding Policy Fin 7 amendments under FOIP 16.
Discussion? All those in favor? Alrighty. To order, is there any direction that came from the enclosed session? Cody?
So this isn't so much direction, maybe another thing to consider that didn't need to be in private, was that if we are to go ahead with the, what is it now? It's not E. Was E, is now, no, it's still E, I don't know. If we're gonna go ahead with what's on page 66, what we're considering, do we still want to do what's on page 65 under Community Hall Operating Funding Policy? Because they are also eligible for $2,000 a year in other assistance. And I'm wondering if that fits in with council's vision on this item, or if we want to do something else.
The saving grace is that we're going to defer it to administration to bring it back at the next council meeting with the appropriate changes that are required. Go ahead, Anthony.
Cody, I think to answer your question, at least from my perspective, I think we already in the past have thought that we wanted to pay that amount that's under, let's see, I better put my glasses, Community Hall Operating Funding Policy, Part 1. And so, I mean, that's basically paying for their power, heating, and the like. So, I mean, that was, already agreed to, at least I thought, and that what we are looking at considering is an addition to that.
Donna?
Are you talking about that $2,000 for the fire suppression system? Because all the halls have to have their fire suppression, inspected, and it's like $2,000. So we really appreciate that funding.
Cody?
Yeah, so that is what I'm referencing. I'm not necessarily saying that we would get rid of it, but if a hall is bringing in $10,000 from the other fund, do we want to also do this $2,000 here? And maybe we do. I just was thinking that was something we might want to consider.
I don't know. My thoughts are just keep it separate, leave the fire suppression alone. It's something that has to be done every so often. And it's not like a perk or a thing, it's just a have to. Anybody else? Go ahead.
Maybe we could ask Lee to come up and explain to what's the conditions or the basis of how those monies are allocated to a hall?
I know you mentioned 2,000, that's just one component of the operating funding. It's, you have to have a commercial kitchen to have the fire suppression, so not all the halls have that. It was just up to a maximum of 2,000 for the fire suppression, which was, I know Easyford and Whitby were the ones that had that. There's this septic servicing, there's the electricity, the heating. Some of them halls, some get 5, some get up to $12,000. Insurance makes up the bulk of that funding, usually 50% of that funding. With all the 9 halls last year, we spent $95,000 on operating.
Anthony?
Oh, sorry, I just had my comment.
So there was a suggestion to have a motion as presented on the screen. Any changes to that? Glenn?
No changes. I move to refer Fin 7 back to administration to consider those items discussed in closed session.
Timeline next council meeting?
For next council meeting.
Discussion? All those in favor? Carried unanimous? Okay, thanks. Okay, no fire reports, general matters, Alberta Economic Partnership. Oh. It's a good thing you fit right in between these two screens there. You sat strategically. There's a little square that I can see your eyes. All right, you're up next.
Take one and pass it down.
Yeah, that was a great shot. That's quite a memorable shot there on the front of this.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you
It
can-
was, oh, sorry, this
she's
thing's on,
squared
eh?
up, she's yelling,
Oh, yeah.
and she's flying.
Yeah, actually, it was funny because Graham had said it almost looked photoshopped, right? But it actually wasn't. It was just a huge jump at Northview Pond there. I'm not sure if I have enough for everybody there, but got most of you guys covered.
Okay, whenever you're ready.
Whenever I'm
Brandy.
ready? Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Well, good morning, Reeve Council. Today, I'm here just to give a recap of the distribution of the 2024 winter and summer Brazeau and Beyond travel guides, as well as talk about the general direction of the 24-25 winter guide, and also asking you to consider to review motion 745-23 or /23-1123 that was made last year. So, just to give a recap, we have what I've given you. We have the winter guide and the summer guide. So this year, the 2024 winter guide was distributed January till March. The summer guide was distributed May till September, and actually, in fact, we do have ads going still on that summer guide, but I wanted to get here mid-September with you guys. So both the guides seem like they were well received by the community. Notes of interest, I'll go through the presentation here in a minute, but I just wanted to say, like, a note of interest that I found was, so we had run Facebook advertising on both the winter guide, summer guide, and so what I had done, the winter guide, it was more like, here's what you can do in the winter, your general, come to our area, it's wonderful. With the summer one, what we actually did is I ended up running an ad focusing on our rural watering hole article, which is actually on page 8 in the summer guide. So that rural watering hole article looked at hotels and lounges or pubs that have historical significance in the region. And the interesting thing in this is that when we ran ads that basically said, this is a great place, come here, etc., we were paying about 25 cents per click. When we ran an ad on the rural watering hole, that was about 6 cents per click. So it kind of showed us that people were interested in more so having an activity to do, a direction to go. They also, that particular ad also got some interest, I think, just in the historic nostalgia of it. So I just find it kind of interesting because here we don't have the same kind of history as you would get, say, in Eastern Canada, or even if you're looking at Europe or whatever, but we do have some pretty kind of cool history. And when you delve back into the books, I like reading some of the old books about the like people who had, like Pack Horse to Pavement is one story, that's the Alder Flats area, the Breton history book. I read through the Tomahawk history book, and you just really get a sense of the grit and stuff that people had when they came out here and clearing the area, and it's cool to have that, and that some of these hotels and bars were actually the very first places that people ever came to. They were sometimes beacons of hope because they were, you know, stuck in muskeg and had, you know, long journeys before they could get to their homestead. So anyways, I just found it was very interesting. The other thing that was interesting of note in this is that the ages. So the age of interest that we could track outside of our subscriptions was that people, men mostly, 70%, 60 to 70% were mostly men ages 25 to 50 that were interested in what the travel guide has to offer and what our area has to offer. So I found that was kind of interesting. I don't know quite what it says about our area, but I think it says that we have some high energy fun stuff. When I think of men between that age, I think of, you know, people who like to ATV, dirt bike, fishing, archery, all those kind of things. So that's kind of another piece that was pretty interesting. I'm just going to go through just what's in front of you, just some numbers for you here. Okay, so basically how we distributed these guides, we distributed via email distribution as well as others, but the first one is email distribution. So we have, the Free Press has 2,600 email subscribers. And so what we did with the winter guide is we distributed it once to all of our subscribers, and then we distributed it several times after that to our non-openers, as well as then distributing again to our subscription list. So out of that, so we had distributed 5,721 emails. We had 4,440 opens with 372 tracked downloads. So that's what I could track, that people actually clicked through and downloaded the guide. The summer guide, because the summer guide goes a longer period of time, it goes from May until September, we do distribute it at least 4 times, and I distributed that one 4 times to all of our subscribers, so that number is higher, where we distributed 9,269 emails. We had just over 8,000 or 8,080, over 8,500 email opens with 1,197 downloads. So the difference when I look at the winter guide, this winter guide was primarily distributed to our region and our email subscription, whereas the travel guide does get distributed and put out farther afield. And also, I think when I look at the winter guide, to me, I considered this was a foundation guide. If you would look at the articles in there, it was basically, we're throwing everything against the wall and letting people know what they can do. It's not necessarily saying, here's a package weekend, or here's what you can do in November. It was more just, are you aware of all these things that are available in the area? So I already spoke a little bit to the Facebook advertising, but essentially the winter guide, the reach was over 58,000. Again, and the link clicks were, in percentages for Facebook advertising, these actually, it gets quite a bit of traction. But anyways, the interesting thing I said was the age groups and the percentages of men versus women, which I think is interesting because lots of times I find, at least on my Facebook channel, there's usually there's female action and a lot of the, on buy and sell pages and things like that, so I was surprised me. So for the summer one, I had said we ran 2 different ads. One of them is just saying this is a great area. The other one was specific to an activity, and like I had already said, the specific one actually seemed like it was, well, it was a cheaper ad, so it got more engagement, which allowed that cost per click to be less. So that's something I think that I would be taking going forward, that people specifically like to know, here's something, as kind of that fish hook, and then download the guide and find out other stuff. So that's kind of what we were looking at with this one. Okay, so then going on, oh, is there any questions? So essentially, track downloads and distribution, we had track downloads was 10,373 over the last, what month were we in? 9 months with those 2 guides. And I also forgot to note on here, we also been running a billboard ad basically from January till September with the digital billboard over at Team Auctions there as well. And so that one, I think they say they get 2,000 vehicles go by each day, even if you're taking 5 or 10% of that, right? 100 to 200 a day, perhaps, views of that billboard. So you can do the math on that. So looking at the winter guide, yeah. So in front of you there, I gave you a little piece of, it's the cardboard paper. That's the one. So that is the general layout or general concept for the cover for the 24-25, I guess, winter guide. Why it's falling in 24, because essentially the idea was conceived in November of last year, which by the time we got things going, we couldn't publish that other guide until January. Ideally, we would like to publish the winter guide no later than the beginning of November, because then it allows people to do the light up parade. Like there's the events that are happening in November, December that did not get included in the January winter guide, if that makes sense. So essentially, so our cover is Timothy Dodd. He's ice biking. He's on Lake Wobbleman, but it just could have easily been Buck Lake. I was skating on Buck Lake this time, or not this time, sorry, but last year at the same time that he was with his ice bike. We like that picture. It's action orientated. To me, it speaks kind of to the region and the action that we have in the region, and the fact that what I find with a lot of people here, they don't just have summer hobbies, they got summer and winter hobbies that are a lot of times the same, right? So you do fishing in the summer, you do ice fishing in the winter, you do your dirt biking in the summer, you do your ice biking or out west biking in the winter. So this is something that we kind of looked at as a dynamic photo. The content on there is just placeholder right now. But essentially, so how we're planning the winter guide is, if you can visualize, we would look at going by months. So each month would have, say, 2 pages. So November, if you think of those as the heading. So November, December, January. And then working with hospitality and tourism and their events calendar, outlining in November, these are the events. By the way, in November, did you know that maybe we don't have snow yet? So maybe it'd be a good time to do public skating or to do some of your last little hikes, or go out west and take, your last little ATV trek or whatever. So same thing with December. December, we start getting snow, so giving suggestions on activities that would be appropriate for those times of the year. So we get snow in December, but maybe the lakes aren't quite frozen, which usually they're not until January, February, right? So that's kind of what we're looking at, is doing monthly, giving event ideas, as well as suggestions of activities that are appropriate for that time of year, if that makes sense. And then basically, we're intending to want to publish this by the first week, 2 weeks in November. So it puts us at about 6 weeks out right now. So this is getting to my third part here. So producing the guides is costly, and I've been very fortunate. We've been very fortunate to work with you guys this last year on these 2 guides that are in front of you, as well as with hospitality and tourism. I have gone to the town a couple times. They have not come on board with funding with that, because when I had initially talked to you guys back in November of last year, it was a 3 partnership funding, to which they have not come on board with. Not that they're not in support of the guide, they're just not in support of putting money behind it, is the impression that I'm getting. And it's due to a number of other financial things that they're currently working on. So when I came back in November, you guys approved funding, which was fantastic. December, I had come back and asked you to consider reamendment of that initial motion in November to remove the town of Drayton Valley contingency so that we could at least go ahead with these guides for 2024. I'm back asking again if you're able to consider amending that motion to remove that contingency so that those funds could be released, not just for 2025, but also for the 2026 guides as well. What I would like to know essentially is I'd like to know that I have the 2 partners, at least with ourselves. It is costly. It's costly doing it in this magazine style. If I know that I don't have the partnerships, we would be going in a different direction. In essence, possibly going back to what we did with the very first issue, was more of a newspaper style, and it would be then just distributed locally. We would pull back on a lot of the things that we're currently doing. So it's not necessarily that we get out a lot in the community. I still feel it's important for people to know what there is to do in this community and how great the place is. It's just, it would look a lot different than it does right now, that's all. So that's my ask, is to see if you're able to remove that contingency for the next 2 budget cycles, I guess is what it would be. And is there any questions?
Anthony?
You made a presentation last night at Eagle Point Blue Rapids Parks Council.
Yes, I did.
Could you, and again, I wasn't at the meeting, but I heard it on the phone,
Yes.
so I was trying to make sure I caught all of it. So could you, especially since I didn't have the material parts of it, could you explain how that might have been similar or different, or what you were asking there, and if they are potentially a partner?
Yeah, so it wasn't funds. What I was talking to them about there yesterday was essentially how the community groups can create a relationship with the newspaper. So if they're running an event, to what they can do to get in contact with us, et cetera. EPBR hasn't done any significant funding, although they have been since day one of our major advertisers for these guides, which has been awesome. They've also been contributors to some of the articles in the guide. And Kathy, with her beautiful photos, has also contributed some photos and stuff over the years to the guide as well.
Okay. And the town then so far have you talked to them again, let's say in the last while?
The last time I talked to them would have been just prior to summer break. So we were looking at May? I think I was in front of them in May. I can go in front of them again, obviously, but it's the deadlines, which means that then it might, if everybody gets on board or whatever, we might then just push the publication back till January again. But the thing was, at the time with the town, when I'd asked them, is that we were also being put in the same pot with another organization that was asking for significantly larger funds. So I'm not sure if that organization is still asking and whether they would have the same stance, is that it's all or none. That was kind of the issue that I feel, where it was all or none. Even though we're asking for significantly less than that other organization, it was basically they wanted to approve all of it or none of it. And financially, I don't think they felt that they were able to approve all of it.
Okay, and if I can, Bart?
Go ahead, carry on.
I see in the booklet, there's several other communities that are beyond Brazeau County, like the Buck Lakes and Alder Flats and Tomahawk and the like. Are you able to get any supports in developing this project from their municipalities?
That's something I haven't explored yet.
Because, I mean, they're getting also some of the benefits of it.
Yep,
So
that's
I
correct.
think it'd be nice to approach their municipalities and see if they're interested in perhaps even enhancing your project.
I could do that. Do you guys, well, I mean, it would be much easier if somebody was able to make my introduction with somebody with Wetaskiwin County, for example, or Parkland, be Parkland County Council, if there are relationships already built, rather than me just going in cold.
Kara?
I'm more than happy to help you with those relationships
Okay,
with our neighboring
okay.
municipalities, both municipalities. I can get you in touch with who you need to. We can talk offline and I'll get
Okay.
you.
Sure.
And there may be a support from the county itself. It's all economic development, whether we're paying for it all or somebody else is contributing. We have an economic development team, but we don't go down the path that you're at, where you're actually producing publications. We try to focus on businesses and supporting that from our economic development.
Yeah.
Most of this stuff is going on in Brazeau County or the surrounding.
Good
rural
portion of
area.
it, yeah, yeah. Well, and it's one of those strange things I found, I've had this conversation even with our national advertiser reps, is that we have friends that live in Tomahawk, for example, but then they get their services, you guys know all of this argument, right? Where they're over the line, but they're over here, but yes. And a relationship would be, if one's established, that would be wonderful.
Glenn?
Yeah, I think what was a great improvement from the winter to the summer, the weekend adventure, that's really well done.
Thank you.
I guess my question would be, do we get any of these taken down to our campgrounds, to Pidaqui or?
Not
West?
that one, the Willie West campground and the town, and the town campground, we have
Okay.
done some distribution with them. Yeah, them, travel centers, actually, it's funny, right now, White Court, it's the end of the season, they're asking for summer guides, so we've been asked by travel centers to distribute our stuff their way, so that's exciting.
I see what the town looks like they advertised maybe?
They do, yeah, they
So
do.
they've
So they
taken
do
a
the full page,
page,
that's
yeah.
coming out of their communications and ads budget versus an overall budget, I guess, is what it would be.
Yeah, I just want to say well done. This is
Oh,
fantastic.
perfect, thanks. Yeah, and so like the next one, the winter one, now that we've kind of just barfed out all the information, it would be more focused, more of an organized focus, right? Yeah.
Thank you.
So I was trying to look for the ask. I don't know if I missed it. What's the actual ask?
The ask is for you to amend, consider once again amending motion 74523-1123, because it's right now contingent on the town of Drayton Valley being a third partner,
But
which,
what's the dollar value?
8,400.
Okay.
It will be 8,400 for 2025 and 8,400 for 2026, so 16,800
Okay.
total.
Kara?
And I would suspect you're asking, because we budget 1 year out, but I know that we can approve funding for another year. It gets a little tricky with councils, just because we're not supposed to tie the next budget, but we can do it, I know we can.
Well, and so when you guys had made that original motion, I think last November, it was for the 25,000 over 3 years, but yeah, it's that contingency piece that
Okay,
has
so
us.
that-
So it has been budgeted, it's just that it's not releasable, like,
Okay.
if
Okay.
that makes sense.
Yeah, because that's actually what I was kind of wondering, because I thought we had approved the overall.
You
for
did,
3
you
years, because
did.
It allows you, and I understand in your world, you need to know that money is coming so that you can get ahead of this stuff and not, you're going to be scrambling at this point to get.
Well, it's, oh, yeah, I'll be scrubbing to get it out in November at this point. I mean, but even then, I'm okay to front some of those costs if I know that at least there'll be something coming in,
Coming
right?
in.
Because that's it, that's the thing.
Okay.
But, and actually, you know what? Given even the relationship with DVHA, they're 100% on board. We're able to move ahead for sure with that winter guide, but it's then, yeah, going into that summer and stuff, right? That's the only thing, right? So there's a bit of wiggle room, but, yeah. Anywho.
Yeah, and I would prefer it out in November. There's a lot of events going on November,
That's the
December that
thing.
we're going to miss getting out.
We missed all of that last year, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, cool. Okay,
So you, because of your previous experience, you know this is budget season.
I
coming up.
know.
And so if there was a reallocation of money, that'd be probably the best chance to get the funding. or to get the money released as you're asking for.
Yeah, well, and, okay, so you guys, so you had approved it last November, the complete 25,000. I had gotten a portion of that in January of this year, of 2024. Personally, I mean, my expectation wouldn't be that there would be the release until January of 2025, but I guess what I'm looking for is I'm looking for just a vote of confidence that I can expect that that release is going to happen in 2025, and right now there's a contingency on those funds, that's all. So I'm looking to do the old, we're buddies kind of thing, or partners, but yeah, so that's something for you guys to discuss amongst yourself, I suppose. I'm not looking for any more money that has not already been budgeted, that's all. It's just, it's the releasing of it, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well
Okay.
then, that puts it into a different light then, because the money's already been allocated.
It has been, yeah.
So this isn't like a new request, it's
No.
just releasing the,
Yeah.
The 8,400 for 2 years.
That's
So
right.
I don't see that as being an issue we have to delay. Anthony?
I will, oh,
That's the point that I was going to ask the question, is if we waited until the budget approval, the funding technically would be delayed until, so then your work perhaps is on hold too, where if you're aware and confident, or at least that we've made the motion to release it, then you can continue on
Yeah.
with the November
yeah,
events and put it out,
That's right.
put it in front of our people. Last year, we lost some of the months, is what
Yeah.
you were explaining to us. So if we don't want to lose that, we need to release the money.
that's right.
So normally our process is that when something comes forward, we usually stew on it and make a motion at the next meeting. But this is already budgeted for.
It has
so
been.
I believe we can release it if that's what council wants.
Okay, and even if that check doesn't come until January, that's fine. I just am looking for just we're in this together.
We'll e-transfer it.
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah, okay.
Cody?
I was wondering, maybe we could refer to administration, whether we're allowed to do that or not. I think there's some, I had some head jiggles in the wrong direction on my left side. So maybe through the chair to administration, we allowed to do that?
Just waiting for confirmation from corporate services. I'm waiting for word from Colin, so I can't specifically say that we're allowed to do that at this point.
Okay, we can defer the motion on this till later on in our agenda, and maybe it'll give Colin some time to get back.
Okay, appreciate it. You don't need me to stick around, though, do you?
No.
Okay,
Well,
cool.
we could if we wanted to torch you.
I got stuff to do, people to see, places to
Yeah.
go, babies to kiss.
You're doing a great job, Brad.
Okay, thank you so much, guys.
Alrighty. We should have a motion to defer, a motion in regards to this item. No, just a motion to defer this decision till later on in the agenda. Donna?
I move to defer the decision on the Brazeau and beyond till later on this afternoon.
Discussion, all those in favor? Carried unanimous. All right. Are you guys ready? Okay. This is the Drayton Valley and District Historical Society.
Do you want to go first?
So state your name for the record.
I'm going ladies first.
Yes.
Good morning. I'm Sandra Blades, president of the Drayton Valley Museum Historical Society. And this is Charlie Miner, our treasurer. So we're here today just to do Charlie has a little presentation. I just have a little bit to say. So a lot of you got our handout. So for 2024, we had been quite busy at the museum. For our small, core of volunteers, we got a lot done. Some of the highlights I just wanted to mention was this year we had to resubmit to be recertified with Alberta Museums Association. So we just completed that, and that is a very onerous task. So we have to do things like strategic plan. This year they wanted an ERP from us, which was very difficult to do. Financial reports, what do we do for pest control, what kind of displays have we set up, how does it relate to the community, and what sort of community engagement we done. So that was something I did pretty much all summer. It goes into them, and then when they approve us, we get another sign that we're good for another 5 years. To be a member of the Alberta Museums Association is advantageous for us, as our summer students we got this year, we weren't successful with Young Canada Works, but we were, Canada Summer Jobs, but we were successful with Young Canada Works in heritage organizations. They fund summer students for small museums with budgets less than $100,000. So the past 2 years, we've been fortunate to get funding for them, up to 75% of our student wages. So that's a benefit for being with them. We're also a member of the Central Alberta Regional Museums Association, which is small member museums, where there's about 50. We're smaller museums, and we're on a big map, and it lists the small 50 museums. Go for Home Museums trying to get on that. I'm not sure how successful they are, but the Go for Home Museums trying to get on that. So we did that this year. We also, this year, worked on a couple projects, one of them being the sign for the big rock we have out there for honoring Anderson Sand and Gravel, who brought that rock out to our location 25 years ago. So this year, we finally made it a project to get a sign out there acknowledging that, and we're doing a small dedication with Albert Anderson's wife and a couple of his daughters on Friday with the paper. That is something that they really wanted. So this is something we've been working on all summer, and happy to say that was a successful project. And the other thing I'm working on this year is I am trying to promote the rock that's in front of the museum. It's concretion. I'm actually going to submit a application to Guinness Book of Records to see if, if there's other, to say that we're the, maybe the largest concretion in Alberta that's round and stuff. So I think it's a very unique tourist thing, a unique object we have. We've had people from Edmonton come out specifically to see the rock. So that is a lot of promotion we're doing this year. So basically, that's it. We're just a busy little museum, doing as best we can to preserve our history of our local area, plus looking at ways museums are changing, how we can do, I guess, different things that the community wants. So we're here for what can we do for the community? So we've changed our focus a tiny bit over the last year with the new leadership in our museum. And that's all. If there's any questions, I'll answer them. Otherwise, I'll pass it on to Charlie, and we can leave questions at the end.
Any questions at all before you forget? My mind just goes swimming with ideas as soon as you start talking, so I think you should focus on the rock, but invite him here.
Yes.
Okay, well, as you just heard, Sandra's the worker. I just sit by and watch. And so, anyhow, the letter we submitted pretty well tells you our problem, our situation. You've heard it before, but I should say also thank you to all of you, to the county, for the funding you provide us. You're very good to us in that aspect. We really appreciate it. The building, I've said it every year, we do desperately need a new building. We know it's not going to happen overnight. We're patient, we'll wait, but we got to have one. It's just, we have absolutely no room. I'd invite all of you to come down anytime. We're officially closed now, but phone call to Sandra or I if you want to take a quick look or tour, or we'd be happy to take you anytime. But we've got stuff stored, you wouldn't believe it. The fire hall, in where the trucks are, there's supposed to be room there for the 2 trucks, but that's about all the room there is, because we just got stuff stored in there. And if it's in storage, nobody can see it. We need to have space to be able to display the stuff. So just ask you to keep all that in mind and hopefully plan ahead, help us get a building, so on. We'll be making the same presentation to the town, so they're well aware of it too. So that's about all. Sure. So.
Thanks, Charlie.
So to help with our space problem, this year we have collections volunteers, so we're actively deaccessioning some items, big items, small items that actually, we don't know where they came from, they don't have a story, or they don't relate to our local area. So over the past year, Tammy has been, with the committee, working at getting rid of, I guess, deaccessioning is the proper word, of a lot of items. So we are working on that to try and free up a little space. So as again, we haven't really been able to take any items for probably the last year and a half. If they're unique and we don't have them and they're like kind of small, then we are. But overall, larger items, we haven't. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Good. That's about all I can say, Bart.
Good to see you, Charlie.
Come up here.
Anthony,
One of the problems of getting old is a hearing problem.
what's that?
And despite all the TV ads on hearing aids, they're not a magic cure-all. They help, but they're not the cure-all. So I need help sometimes. So let answer Sandra promptly if you have any questions.
Anthony,
Some communities have what I would describe, at least as I understand it, buildings that they've declared as heritage buildings and that they can't be destroyed or built, modified in any substantial way. At least that's some of the limitations I understand with them. Do we know if Drayton Valley has any, I'm going to call them historical buildings, that perhaps also maybe aren't necessarily fully utilized? And maybe in that way there's some, let's say, out-of-the-box thinking of trying to get additional space, that maybe some of those facilities already having heritage or older build type buildings, and that are still some having some functional use, like what would you call everyday use, might be another avenue. Even if you're split a little farther, it's putting your displays in different parts of the community. Do we have any of that? Have we thought about that, rather than building a building? Because to me, it's a bit of a contradiction to have a brand new building for antiques.
We actually have thought about storing some items or displaying items in different locations. Basically, it was a thought. Yeah, we haven't thought about too much. Oftentimes, we have to look at, especially our collections volunteer, depending on where it goes, we have to try and make sure that we look after the item. So even in our facilities where we're always, checking the temperature, checking for water leakage. So anywhere else we would, again, because we want to look after the items that have been put into our care. I don't know of any other old heritage buildings, but we have looked at different places to possibly store items and display them, so.
Because, I don't know the Dayton Valley well enough to say this building or that building, but even buildings that have been utilized extensively in the past for whatever their business purposes were, and maybe now with the economy not quite as active for that business, maybe there's opportunities. And I think we need to look at some of those things rather than new and everything that is more expenditures, because our tax dollars are only so much. And there's got to be other ideas that we can still preserve history and maintain history, our artifacts and our story of our forefathers, rather than putting up new buildings. And I know there's a bit of, I'm going to contradict myself now, because with utilizing some of the old buildings, which we know with the church down there, I believe it was, we had to put a $45,000 or a significant amount of dollars anyway, $45,000 into that building roof. So there's significant repairs in the old buildings too. So I see the conundrum.
Yes, I understand, and I think we're not going towards finding more old buildings and bringing them onto our site, because they just require a lot of maintenance upkeep. So I hear what you're saying, and it makes sense. And yeah, we will look around the community some more and see what else we can do. You know, we'd like to develop the museum area some more, working with, I think you guys had a conversation with an Indigenous group, trying to do some Indigenous tourism. So we're meeting with that. We're looking with Drain Valley Hospitality and Tourism, trying to get them to see if they want to put a tourist center like down there. So we are working in collaboration with a lot of other groups to try and develop our area more, because we do have a lot of space. So, yep, but that was a good point. Thank you very much.
Because, if I can, Bart? Because like at Breton, the museum there is an old school, and I know that their situation is quite jammed too with the school that they have got for space and the amount of artifacts that they have. So I'm sure at least it's possible they have the same concerns as you have in terms of needing space. And there's another future that may see some of the elementary school there become a possibility that it could be likewise utilized in a fashion form for some of the history there. So I'm thinking if that is something that they can explore, likewise it'd be something to look for in the Drayton area rather than having a new building. And maybe since budget is coming up, but we also have some time in budget deliberations to do it, maybe you could talk to the town and see what their thoughts are and what you might be able to come up even with your own board rather than building a new one.
Yes, I did mention to Alan Goddard, who's the curator of the Breton Museum, that I would really like them to try and get the Elside store, right? I said, that's a historical, but he just kind of he got the shakes.
That one has an open door on it, I think, right now.
Yeah, I know. Okay.
Any other questions?
This has little to do with the museum, but since Charlie is here, and I'm seeing all this stuff on Facebook, social media, about there being tunnels under the Drayton Valley Hotel. Can you tell me anything about tunnels? Where did they run? Did they run to the old town hall, or where did they go?
I look at the museum site once in a while, and I see my name there, that says everybody. I don't put the stuff on there. That's,
Oh, okay.
so-
No,
I know from our past president was here, there are tunnels, and she knew more of the story, but that is an interesting thing that Colleen Anderson, like, you know,
Yes.
you see her, she's actually our go-to now, because she's always at the museum and stuff, but she'd probably know even more, but I know there's tunnels.
okay, I thought maybe Charlie would have a better idea of what they used them for back
Yeah,
then.
really.
Okay, thank you.
Rum running. Okay. Thank you very much for hearing us, and again, like Charlie said, we thank you for your continued support. It's very much appreciated, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you next year.
Yeah. Take the rest of the day off, Charlie.
I'll try and make it till then.
Okay. Okay, well, that was interesting. Cody, go ahead.
I move to add the Drayton Valley and District Historical Society request to the 2025 interim budget discussions.
Discussion on that? All those in favor? Okay, that's carried unanimous. All right, Central Alberta's, oh no, yeah, no, yeah. We're on general matters, I believe. Central Alberta's Economic Partnership. I think, Kara, you had raised this initially. Do we want to join one of the north or one of the south? The north kind of said no. Nobody loves us. The south is basically, what's that? Central, yeah. but I'm just trying to give a geographic perspective, you know. I guess Pinoca, Red Deer would be right in the heart of Central. Go ahead, Anthony.
I see the membership, at least the way I read it, seems to be $500, which I don't have a problem with. I think that would be worthwhile, exploring a membership with them. I guess the other part of, and I didn't see it when I read this, so maybe someone can help me with filling in the blanks. They must have like monthly, quarterly meetings or some such regularity. Does anyone know the regularity of their meetings and who would be eligible to attend? Whom I mean, like what parties, like businesses, counties, municipalities, whatever?
Anybody know those answers? I don't. And I'm not even sure where their boundary is. I know there's a map somewhere that shows their boundaries. It's just, trouble is, we're in the middle, between the north and the central.
Well, Bart, then why don't we, like, there's a conference coming up here, I believe, just wait here somewhere, I thought it's on. Yeah, page 89. That we had delayed until we wanted more information. We saw this last meeting. And I think this one is coming up here October 11th. So I think it'd be a good idea to attend that, have a couple of counselors go to that, ask some of the questions that I just talked about, like what's the membership, membership, I mean board membership, and what are the frequency of the meetings.
Okay, what's your thoughts, councilors? Go ahead, Glenn.
Through the chair to administration, can you explain the membership levels? Or would we have to do the municipal at 70 cents per person that would run 5,000, or associate at 500? Which one would we be looking at?
Reeve, through you to Councillor Gunderson, excuse me. It's my understanding that we could start with the $500 membership.
Okay.
Yeah.
But a lot of organizations go by municipal population, whether it's West Central or the Saskatchewan River or whatever it is. That's some sort of a formula they use, is 50 cents or $1 per capita or whatever the number is. And that way you're proportionately paying your share, supposedly. Go ahead, Anthony. Oh.
Just one thing to add to that, if I understand correctly, probably what we could do initially is we could purchase the $500 associate membership as WEC. That would be a good introduction to the organization. Then if we wanted to further join municipally, we could do that. I believe that's how the structure is set up.
Okay. Kara?
If you are looking for some more information, they do have a great website, so, as well, so I think some of that's answered there. Just quickly, Clearwater County, Kneehill County, Pinoca County, Red Deer County, Stettler County, Wetaskiwin County, Lacombe County, I'm thinking that's Starland County. Yeah, Camrose County, it's just not, I don't have another laptop, it's not, yeah, and then they've got, I believe they've got, then there's towns, cities, villages, and First Nations, too, as well.
So is Rimby part of their group then, too?
I can tell you in 2 seconds. Thorsby, Rimby, Bowden, Stettler,
Okay.
Millet, Rocky Mountain House, Trochu, Three Hills, Sylvan Lake, Sundre.
So you're aware of them, Rudy? Were you
Yeah,
guys part of
Penholds,
that?
Olds, Innisfail, Eckville, Didsbury, Blackfalds, Bentley. Oh, there's quite a few.
Okay, what do you need a motion to do something here? Kara? Go ahead, Glenn.
I move to direct administration to purchase an associate membership with the CAEP through WEC. Do that one first and then that one after.
Okay, discussion. All those in favor? Carried unanimous. Kara?
I'm just finding some really quick information. Honestly, we gotta check their website out. They partner with MMPs, Stantec, Jedi. Chandros, Olds College, like, there's gonna be Red Deer Regional Airport. There's some Chambers Commerce. I think there's gonna be some really good,
Yeah, high-level organizations.
yeah, yeah, I think this is gonna be excellent.
Glenn?
With that said, I think it'd be more appropriate for all of council to be able to go to that October 11th.
Yeah, I don't have a problem. But
Just to get a feel for it, so we know what everyone to get on board with that, so, is it? Oh, I'm sorry, okay.
It's what, Tina?
And under meeting dates for you.
Okay. Alrighty. Request for cat bylaw, pages 80 to 84. Go ahead, Glenn.
So yes, this is a request from a ratepayer, Kevin Thompson. He lives in Rocky Rapids, and he's dealing with the cats coming into his yard and ripping up his flower beds and killing the birds. He had a bird feeders there, and they pretty well cleaned them right out. He's tried to trap the cats before, and he's gotten in trouble from our county bylaw officers for doing it inappropriately. So, yeah, the neighbors, he's caught the neighbors' cats plus other cats, and yeah. So he feels his hands are tied at this point. And so I took a look at what he was dealing with. And I walked around the yard, and you could see that the cats are running through pretty well all four sides of the house. And they're also, it seems to be that they're calling that the Rocky Rapids Hall their home. When you look into the crawl spaces, the vent shafts, the vent covers have been removed. And somebody's put in a lot of cat food tins in there, so the cats are in there, apparently now skunks. He's thinking, a cat bylaw would help with this, so the town of Drayton Valley has one as well. And the cats have to be tattooed, or they have to have a collar, or some other, or microchipped. And the idea is if you trap it, you can actually return it back to its owner, and they would pay a fine for that. So that's kind of where he's at. I don't know if this applies to anything other than Rocky Rapids right now, but if we did a cat control, added that to the bylaw, if we'd want to just do it for Rocky Rapids, or if we'd want to expand it to all hamlets and subdivisions. But I would think I'd leave that up to administration as to how they would add it in. I'm up for any questions or discussions.
Donna, then Anthony.
So, back to, this is the question, what do we do with the trapped cats that aren't tattooed, you can't find an owner? Because all the facilities around here can't take any more cats.
Yeah, for the most part, that's the question is, the only thing you could do is at least you could find, if it is a neighbor's cat, you can return it to your neighbor or whatever. Like I'm seeing on social media, lots of times cats will go missing from Poplar Ridge and end up over in Violet Grove or even across the river. It's amazing, they crawl into the backs of pickup trucks and they go for rides. So that way it would help, and it would help just reduce some of the issues of people breeding cats and just letting them go. Like I said, we deal with it in the farms and acreages where they just drop them off, but in the hamlets, it's a bigger concern.
Anthony.
The ones that are no one's cat, they're strays, I think the answer somewhere was in here in this presentation, probably need to be humanely put down, because spading them isn't going to solve the problem of the cat running around scratching in someone's flower bed. All it's going to do is have more expensive cats running around. From my point of view, I think we should also be asking administration, and particularly Lee, because Lee has I think, done some work on this in the past, or at least may have some awarenesses. If we were to put in tagging these cats and having them, the owner's cats, being able to be identified, if they are caught by a neighbor, they gotta be taken somewheres. I think Glenn pointed out, or Donna pointed out, that there is no place to take cats. Just like when we have catch a dog, a stray dog, it has to be taken somewheres. So maybe if Lee could come forward, or administration could help us understand what additional needs we would need to have if we put a cat bylaw in place, because there's likely gonna need to be a place to hold these cats a certain amount of time before you can, so you can identify the owner to come and get them.
Yeah, that's the question. What do you do when you do catch them if you can't rehome them? I know during COVID, of course, we have all the animal shelters are full of dogs, and I know Cause for Critters has made presentations, and I know they're still working on, when they made the presentation, is looking at a mobile spay and neuter. I know last year it was all booked up, but they're looking to try and get it booked, and then they were looking for funding for that. My own personal thoughts on it were, you know, rather than, because we would have to set up a facility to host these, why duplicate services like Cause for Critters? You give money to different groups, the Historical Society, give money to a group that's already doing, you know, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, they're already doing it. Then they can have more resources to put on more stuff like spaying and neutering. I mean, that's what their presentation was, to come and ask for money for that. So I've looked around, and I know, respectfully, Glenn, I thought you mentioned Leduc County, but I did check with Leduc County. We spoke to the CPOs, and they don't have a cat bylaw. And maybe it was the city of Leduc. Okay, so anyway, I did check with them. It's just, nobody wants to touch this one, because eventually you'll have these cats, and then the county will be in the position of being the one that's euthanizing these. You know, you'll get criticized for that, because what do you do with the excess ones?
So there is a cat problem, there's no doubt about that, but we've been told by administration terrible times that you can't put a bylaw in place if you can't enforce it. And we wouldn't want our CPOs, you know, they're out there fighting crime or doing what they can to look after our bylaws. I would hate to think that they'd be spending time chasing cats. You know, so that's, is there a problem? I agree. What can we do about it? I don't know, live with it. There's coyote problems, there's cougar problems somebody mentioned today. I don't know what the solution is, but a bylaw I don't think would change that. I mean, we could start fining people, but that's not gonna fix the problem. That's just gonna upset more people. But is there a problem? Without a doubt. And maybe the solution that you, a veiled solution, is maybe give Cause for Critters or some of these other organizations some money to try to minimize the problem. You're not gonna solve it. So I think Anthony was next, then Donna.
So Lee, I understand what you're saying is that if we're going into the gaming, getting a tag and tagging them, then they'd be held just like the dogs are, and we'd have to have a fee set up and everything else, and someone managing that place. In other words, Cause for Critters. And I just think we need to be a little more realistic in the situations they are. The wildcats are the wildcats, and I would say put them down humanely. That's what my solution is, because if they're no one's cats, to have them spaded and have a spaded cat running around doing the same thing doesn't make any sense to me. And as far as the tags go, I really don't see that as another level of administration that we see ourselves wanting to get into. We've got enough with the dogs, and even their bark, we've have that pretty liberal. So I don't know that we want to get to the cats too yet.
If you remember in Montana, they had a wolf issue with killing cattle. and the argument was to try to spade the wolves, right? And they said, not having sex with our cows, they're killing them, okay? So I relate that to the cats as well. Sorry for that, but it was the only way I could put it in a situation that seems normal, so. Anyway, Donna.
When I talked to Kevin about this issue, I tried to get across at how much this would cost the county. You would have to have somebody issuing the little tags. You'd have to have somebody that they can bring these trapped cats to. And I'm with Bart, like, we don't want our CPOs doing this. Like, we would have to make a whole other department for this, to catch cats, and I don't know, like, it's just such a hard problem. Like, maybe we could fund Cause for Critters, but they never get rid of cats. Like, they just get more and more. So I don't, as much as I want to help, I don't know how we would do it without, I hate to say this, but without euthanizing some cats, because there's just too many cats. And my gosh, we would get backlash over that. I just don't know the answer.
And we had the issues with dogs, and we decided not to go down that path with dogs, especially counting them, how many dogs you're allowed, and you'd have to bang one on the head because they had 3 babies, and you're only allowed 2, so you gotta hire somebody to bang one of them on the head, so that they meet the rules. But, yeah, I don't know this is not an easy solution. Or you just have to live with it and let nature and or people look after them, one way or the other. Oh, does Kara have her light on?
No,
I'll
I
go
don't
to
have the
Kara
answer
Shannon
to
talk.
this, and I actually, it's a difficult conversation, and the problem is we can't do nothing. We know we have a problem, we just can't turn a blind eye to it. What the solution is, I don't know. And I don't know if we need to do research and see what other communities are doing, but there is a problem. There's a problem in Rocky Rapids, there's a problem in Poplar Ridge, there's a problem in Lodgepole, it's a problem. And the unfortunate part is when you have feral cats and animals, domestic animals running at large, you also bring in bigger predators, and it becomes an issue. And it is an issue in Rocky Rapids, and we have had issues, and we will continue to have bigger predator problems in our hamlets. So we have to do something. I just don't know what it is. And, you know, at the end of the day, I agree with you. Our shelters are full, and we can't keep, even if we give Cause for Critters money, I don't think they'll take it from us because they don't have any room. And as difficult as that conversation is, like, we're gonna have to look at euthanizing. And it sucks that we as a council, as an elected official, are put into that position. We're not the ones that created this problem. There's humans out there that haven't done their due diligence, right? You know, like, I even think about my house. I've got 2 cats right now, and neither one of them were mine, and I've had to pay to get them spayed because they're females, and and I've paid out of my pocket, and they're not even my cats. Well, they're my cats now, but yeah, it sucks. We are not in a great position, but we also just can't sit here and go, well, we know it's a problem, but there's nothing we can do.
Yeah,
It's going to be a problem when we have a larger predator come in and attack a kid.
yeah.
Well, that's the thing, this creates skunk problems, it creates fox problems, you've got coyotes, we have cougars in our hamlets that are coming after these things. Like, it's the domino effect, right? And people need to understand that, and I think maybe we've got some understanding because we are rural. I think our residents understand the position we're in, and more than likely the position we're gonna have to take with it. The unfortunate part is when you get people from not outside the community, I hate saying this, but live in cities or towns that just, they have the narrow vision perspective, and they don't understand real life, I guess. But, I mean, we're all rural people here. We know what we do with cats that show up to our place. You either do what I do, or there's another solution, so.
And I think you're not alone. I've paid to spade cats and all that stuff too. It's just a bunch of money. And cats live a long time, like 15 years. So every new one you've just added to the pile. Who was next there? Donna, you still on the list?
Yeah, I can't even count how many cats that I've spayed, and the reproduction of them, they're getting inbred, and they're getting, yeah, and they're not healthy. Like, I spayed 2 last year, and both of them have health issues, so more costs. So I don't know, like, there must be other places that have this problem that we can look at.
So do you not have any solutions either, Glenn and Anthony? Oh, you do? Okay.
Well, my solution would be to have administration take a look into it, but it doesn't have to be complicated. When I get a brush pile, when I want to burn a brush pile, I do an online permit. So I take a photo of the brush pile, I say where it's at, all the information, and submit it. It's that simple. That's all you would have to do for a cat. Take a photo of the cat, this is the tattoo information, this is the microchip information, or this is the name of the cat, and just keep it really simple. And here's the fee. That money can go straight to Cause for Critters. As far as I'm concerned, we wouldn't need it. But just keep it really simple and plain. Just make it for Brazeau County. It doesn't have to be for Wetaskiwin County or anything like that. So, like I said, I think Donna is right, or Councillor Wilsey is correct, that we just have to look at other places. But so I move to direct administration to develop and bring back to council recommendations for the inclusion of control of cats in the Brazeau County Animal Control Bylaw.
Anthony?
My opinion, we don't want to go there. And I think what we need to start doing, we all know that there's a facility in one of the hamlets that is the breeding grounds, or potentially the breeding grounds, for some of these stray cats. We need to start getting rid of the, I'm going to call it the breeding grounds. The facility that we all know which one we're talking about has no apparent useful use at this current time and potential in future. I think we need to start dealing with that. If we deal with that, I think that takes care of some of the potential residents or home opportunities for animals to gather at. Then I think we also need to start speaking to our communities. They're the ones that have these problems. They're bringing them to us to handle them. They want less government, but they also have to be responsible cat owners. And that's where we have to start putting back on them the responsibilities they have as animal owners, cat owners. I don't think we want to get into where we're going to start managing cats and license them. It's a never-ending cycle of where we're not going to win, and we won't win with that one where we go into legislating cats and by having them tagged. So I think we're better off working at seeing what we do with that facility, so it takes away that home for the residents. And we look at talking to the residents and telling them this is their situation that they also need to take responsibility for. And I think we need to defeat this motion.
Okay, it's 11 o'clock. I've got to get into, you got something quick, Tara?
Going to ask for a friendly amendment to Councillor Gunderson's motion. Would you consider a friendly amendment to, when we're looking at the cat bylaw or that type, that we look for in hamlets and named subdivisions? I don't want this blanketing Brazeau County. I think this is a hamlet and named subdivision issue, and I'm even happy with just hamlets at this point.
I would accept that amendment.
All right, so just more discussion? Okay.
So, Councillor Gunderson's motion was for,
To direct administration to develop and bring back to council recommendations home for the inclusion, so recommendations. So
recommendations.
we're not doing it, we're just recommendations.
but more, what I heard from you is about people who had cats and had them, like they were their pets. What the issue is the feral cats. We don't have an issue with people who own cats. They're usually quite,
Let them
okay,
decide.
all right,
Let them
let them just,
All right, just my thoughts is, we start going down this path, it's gonna cost us time and money, of which we have some limits on that. But, I think trying to fund organizations that are already doing something might help. I like the idea of dealing with while we're talking the Rocky Rapids Hall there, we gotta find out what the fate of that is, and that will solve some problems. But putting in a bylaw is not gonna solve anything. We might understand it, but the cats won't. So, any discussion? Sorry, I didn't mean that to be funny. Any other discussion? All those in favor? That was, all those in favor? You're in favor, Cody? Oh, okay, those opposed? All right, so that's carried. All right, it's 11 o'clock, it's public input time. It's an opportunity for the public or people in the gallery to bring forward any ideas, solutions, things that may haven't been on the agendas. So the floor is open. Direct all your questions or comments through the chair, and take it away. Anybody here? Anybody out there in internet land? No concerns out there? I'll ask the third and final time, any concerns out there that are online? That's interesting. All right, we'll come out of the enclosed regards to Alberta Municipal Affairs, if I haven't missed anything. Fire service training, who's speaking on that? Anybody?
Reeve, just to make council aware that the province is putting some money towards that. And I think we've accessed it in the past, and we're planning to access it again for some training in 2025.
Okay, so a motion to receive the letter for information. Boy, the simplest requests are the hardest ones to get somebody to put their name forward. Go ahead, Anthony.
Received a letter from Minister MacGyver for information.
Discussion, all those in favor? Should almost have a $10 reward if you put your hand up first. All right. Alberta Forestry and Parks, Kelly Dressler, he was the fellow that came in here at one time, made a presentation in regards to fire suppression system. All right, go ahead, Anthony.
Move to receive the letter from Minister of Alberta Parks and Forestry for information.
Discussion, all those in favor? Carried unanimous. We have Sarah Foss. Kara?
Two things on this. As council, and I don't think we have ever sent a letter to the province, just stating that we're incredibly concerned with the closures here. I don't think we have. I know the town has. And then the other thing is, anytime I talk to anybody about this, I highly encourage them to join the Physician Recruitment and Retention Committee, because it's we're volunteers, so It's a board of volunteers trying to actively
But
do
you're
it.
our representative still,
Yes.
aren't you?
Yeah, yeah, so that's what I'm saying, is anytime I talk to anybody, I try and encourage them to come help with that group, but the other thing is, have we sent a letter to the province stating our concern with this, and I don't think we have.
Well, let's do that.
I think we should be.
Go ahead and make the motion, Kara.
Oh, I move to direct administration to send a letter to the provincial government with concerns around the doctor shortage within Drayton Valley, as well as the intermittent closing of our emergency department at the hospital.
Discussion, all those in favor? Carried unanimous. Breton Food Bank. I need to request, I forgot to put something on the agenda this morning. It's a personnel issue in regards to, like an enclosed personnel. I think it's 19, is that correct, Tina? Okay. So I need somebody to put that on the table. Sarah?
Well, you
Kara.
have not called me that for a long time. I move to add item 36C, personnel FOIP section 19, to the agenda.
Discussion, all those in favor? Carried. Are you in favor or not? Okay, all right, those opposed? Cody, thanks. Okay, Breton Food Bank. Go ahead, Anthony.
We got this letter that was handed out this morning. Tina set it in front of us. And I got it sent to us, I think Dallas, and so did Bart, if I remember correctly, had it sent to them by John and Barb Meinsinger, who are at the Breton Food Bank. And there's new requirements of Alberta Food Banks to be certified, I believe. And so the process that they are needing to go through, especially for some of these small food banks, is quite a task for them, especially when many of them are managed by older individuals. And they're hoping that the council would, at least the letter asks us if we would lobby the Minister Nixon to relax these certification requirements for the small food banks so that they can better still function. And I believe, if I'm correct in my recollection, at a previous FCSS, Drayton Valley District FCSS meeting, there was a member there from the Drayton Valley Food Bank, and he was speaking to it as well, about their certification process that they have to go through. So perhaps we could also communicate, or I could try to get information there to help better understand how onerous their process is that they're going through. And with that in mind, maybe some of these food banks could help one another rather than leaving each other sit where some are perhaps a little more talented than others in terms of being able to do the certification process. But anyway, I wanted to bring this here to the council, to being that we're going into the conference and in the fall, that we perhaps consider lobbying Minister Nixon in terms of relaxing these restrictions or certification requirements for small food banks.
Makes sense to me. They don't want to spend all their time filling out application forms. Glenn?
I thought I remembered this being brought up at RMA. Am I wrong? That the food bank issue and the certification? I think it might already be in play.
I don't recall. Well, I think we can still, we can still lobby on behalf of these folks. So even if there is a mention of it at the RMA, it obviously didn't solve the problem. Right, so. Anthony?
So I would be prepared to make a motion, but it's twofold. One, I think we should be, and I'll do my part to talk to I'm going to talk to Drayton Valley FCSS, because I believe that's where we already had a presentation made by Drayton Valley Food Bank, where I can better understand their process and how difficult they're finding it. And then the second component is, I think we should be making the motion for council to lobby Minister Nixon with this request to reduce the certification requirements for small food banks.
Yeah, they kind of did that with the Class 1 driver's license as well.
Yeah.
They went down a pretty strong approach, and then they kind of backed off. And that's sometimes what the government does. They call that thinking out loud. Go ahead, Anthony.
So I would make a motion to direct the minister, or to ask council to lobby the Minister Nixon in terms of reducing the certification requirements for small food banks.
Discussion, all those in favor? Discussion? Go ahead.
Yeah, so just for clarification, Breton's asking for exemption, and in the new rules and regulations, Indigenous food bank groups are already exempt, so the small food banks are asking for the same exemption. They just don't want to have to.
Would you do that as a friendly amendment to my motion then? To call
Sure,
it
I'd love to add that as a friendly amendment, and as it
Please
be an
do.
exemption.
Yeah, please do that as, to substitute.
Okay, he's asked that.
Okay, so I will do that. I will ask for a friendly amendment
Yes.
to include exemption rather than
Reduce,
reduction.
yes.
Yeah, but that's okay. Sorry, Tina?
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Carried unanimous. You said there was two parts, Anthony. What was the other part?
Just that I would talk to the Drayton Valley group to see how they're doing it and what challenges they're finding. And maybe, I don't know if we want to ask administration to do any of that research, but certainly I could do it from my end of it, talking to FCSS, Drayton Valley FCSS.
Okay.
So I know that was the second component, but I didn't know whether you want it just done by us, like individually, or direct administration. That's what I'm asking.
Whatever you wish. Glenn?
I just wanted to clarify, that wasn't an RMA, that was FCM. That was one of the votes, was federal support for food banks, and they discussed this already, but so RMA, maybe we should be onboarding with them too, and making that as a resolution.
Yeah, because it's once again, it's down to roles and responsibilities, and municipalities are inundated with all kinds of things that aren't the core infrastructure. And so that's a role of the federal government, the social services. So they're shirking their duties, and we have to hold their feet to the fire. Dallas?
Okay, so the other part that we could extend just one step farther is that next week is Alberta Muni's, their convention, so I'm hoping that we could, I don't mind, I thought I'd do it myself, I'd just reach out to Mayor Dodds and see what their food bank request is, and if they could bring something to their AM Muni's
Yeah, 'cause
convention.
we can't put motions forward there.
Yeah, we can't, we're there. I'd love to see them bring something. I don't know if they have, because I haven't made that communication with them, so either we could direct administration to do that, or I can just do that myself.
Kara?
Yeah, I think that'd be great. We'd have to hit them get somebody that's an AB Muni's member to hit them at the Bear Pit session. They've got similar rules around resolutions as we do. So this wouldn't be able to come off the floor, but I think if we had those conversations, and if the three of us are down there, I think it's three of us that are going, maybe each find a different municipality, bring it up and see if we can get them to ask those questions at their ministerial Bear Pits.
I think we can give Nancy Dodds a call today
Yeah.
and just say, here's a heads up, we're looking at,
And if we're,
finding somebody to help support what you're doing.
yeah, and then I think if we're looking at putting a resolution in, I believe our zone meeting is coming up. The only thing I don't, well, I'm just looking right now just to see. Oh, we do have time, because we have a meeting on October 1st, a council meeting. And then I believe our zone meeting is October 7th. So if we directed administration to draft a resolution, we could have it for the 1st and then hopefully get it onto the agenda for the zone meeting.
Okay.
And then
The
we can
zone
get
is
it
on
to
the 1st of October?
a council meeting.
Oh,
If we were looking at doing a resolution for RMA,
Oh, I see.
We would have to ask administration today to prepare something for the 1st, and if it's approved then we could take it to just our zone meeting on the 7th of October.
Okay, makes sense.
So we do have tight timelines, that's the only thing
And somewhere in the resolution, talk about the roles and responsibilities of municipalities and the role of the federal government, and I believe it's one of their responsibilities. I mean, we're all responsible in a way for our fellow man, but we don't tax a fellow man for social services. We tax for core infrastructure.
All right.
All right,
So can I ask administration, can I craft a motion to ask administration to draft that letter to take to our zone meeting?
well, it should be passed by this council and then take it to the zone.
Okay.
Pardon me?
I'm, a letter
first.
or resolution.
Letter first.
Yeah.
My concern is if we're just doing a letter, you're gonna miss the resolution's deadline. Yeah. So
The
if,
deadline is the,
resolution deadline, I believe, will be that week of October 7th. RMA is a week early. You have to, if we're, I agree with sending a letter maybe at the same time, but if you want a resolution and you want it in front of our RMA members, it has to go through the zone on October 7th and be approved at the zone in order for it to go on.
and so our next council meeting, so we got time, we can make
We got
a
2
motion
weeks.
to draft the resolution on the first, we approve it if that's what we wanna
Yeah.
do, and then take it to the zone meeting.
Yeah. And then maybe we could send a letter in the meantime. A letter is a lot easier to send and quicker to send. We can maybe get some attention quicker that way and then go the resolution process.
Okay, I'll make a motion to draft the letter, and send it.
All right, I'll move to direct administration to draft a letter to Minister Nixon, in regard to the food bank issue that we're facing.
Any discussion on that?
Is that okay?
All those in favor? It must be, you guys just passed it.
I think so. Okay, and then I also move to direct administration to draft another letter to bring to zone meeting. No, a resolution
The resolution,
to bring to council at our next council meeting,
yes,
and then we'll adopt it at that time.
yeah.
Okay.
So the motion is to draft a resolution for October 1st. Discussion, all those in favor? Carried unanimous?
His
Nancy Dodds?
counterpart, Nancy Dodds?
Yes, I'll do that.
Thank you.
Have I missed anything? Are we down to reports? All right. So, Dallas, you're first and foremost there.
All right, well, let me just get there. And, well. Okay, so first FCSS, no meeting, no report, other than they're very active and doing a great job. The other thing was MPC. So council has access to the MPC September 10th, 2024 meeting. That's the meeting we just had. And in that, there are some draft amendments to conditions for some septic situations that may be relevant. So I would just encourage you to read those proposed amendments for subdivision septic conditions and give MPC a little bit of feedback on that. Okay?
Go ahead, Glenn.
I had a ratepayer ask about outhouses.
They're cool.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. They're fine. There's nothing that needs to be applied for.
Like a porta potty?
No, dig a hole in an outhouse, right?
People still do that?
Okay, well, I
I
thought,
don't know why
I don't
you
know.
wouldn't. You got a cabin out in the bush. Why wouldn't you have an outhouse?
that's what this would be for, cabin in the bush, outhouse. Okay.
Kara?
I don't want to do this, but before you say anything, I would make sure, because I don't think you can do that anymore. I know as a municipality, we can't. So if we know we've got outhouses, we had to, and I believe Lee would help, in the parks and rec area, because you can't have raw sewage just in a hole anymore. But I would, because we're not an accredited municipality, they need to check with the province.
Well, yeah, accreditation just means you hire staff or you don't hire staff,
Yes.
right? So,
But- and
we
sewage-
don't hire staff, we make our citizens apply for their own permit from wherever.
So my thing is I would direct them to call municipal affairs with the provincial government to get their answer.
They'll do that for sure.
Yeah,
Don't tell them that, yes, they can do that, because then you're liable.
yeah, you're right. So just make a motion then right now that we direct administration to check on the legalities of traditional outhouses. Glenn?
I move to direct administration to check in with the legalities of outhouses.
All right. Dallas, you got another one? Oh, yeah, discussion, all those in favor?
Okay, so just to recap, September 10th, because I really want to hear from all council. September 10th, MPC, it's on our website, everybody has access to it, please click on the link. And page 62, Administrative Matters, Update Report, Subgrade Conditions, Septic Systems, please get back to me of that, and I'd love to hear from you, thank you.
Now you're done? West Central? Just take it away, you got four
Oh.
there.
No meeting for Eleanor pickup. These are all coming up this week. No meeting for RMA wildfire. And I do have some news that I put on everybody's table about ECDC. Hope that you will read it, but there will be more coming. This is just brand new. Yeah, just brainstorming and, yeah. Have your thoughts ready for next meeting, I guess. And that's all.
Okay. Cody?
Oh, yeah. So there's no meeting for the Yellowhead Regional Library Board. Brazeau Foundation, I have my report in attached to any additions, and the meeting for the Recreation Board was postponed until this month.
Glenn, you're up.
I've attached my meeting report to page 88. The next library meeting will be held this Thursday.
Anthony?
Where are we at here? I'm gonna go faster than I am.
You're on 24. Ag
Okay.
Service Board.
Ag Service Board. At our last meeting, we had discussion on the 5-acre area that we currently spray for hawkweed. Apparently, when they're doing that on a good number of the sites that they're going out, it's not really covering all the weeds, hawkweeds that are there. So we've asked staff to check into what the cost would be for changing it from 5 acres to 10 acres in order to try to get more of it. Also, the question was raised, maybe we could look at changing the parameters from hawkweed to more of the noxious weeds. But that would also increase the budget or costs for spraying and the amount of water and the like that staff would have to be taking out to the different sites, because now all of a sudden you're making it a bigger task. So those are discussions that have occurred. We also went with staff, and 2 of the board members went to view a facility at Leduc County for used oil collection. And that's being discussed at our coming meeting here tomorrow as well, for used oil collection facility for Brazeau County.
Where is that at tomorrow?
Our Ag Service Board meeting is tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
And then, if you want me to continue on, Bart?
Yeah, carry on with the rest of your appointments.
Okay, for Drayton Valley and FCSS, we haven't had a meeting since our last, I reported. With Eagle Point's Blue Rapids Park Council, the meeting was last night, and I explained to them that with the process that we've underwent. We've closed 494 now that they've requested, and that it's been closed for lease purposes, and they were quite happy with that. And then I also explained to them that when we talked about the letter that they had written and they had brought to us, and we had asked for the North Saskatchewan Heritage River designation, that perhaps they would also include not just the riverbanks, but the tributaries. And we had also put in a statement there of asking us to be taken out of it, the portion that's in North Saskatchewan. They weren't too favorable having that statement in there to have us taken out of it, but they were quite willing to add tributaries as our area of concern, and if they're going to get assurances that it won't impact us, that it's not going to be just on the North Saskatchewan River, as the letter had stated, but they will include and tributaries.
Like Wood Creek.
Yeah, so they were quite agreeable to that, and I think that was what our biggest impact was. And I explained to them that we were hopeful that throwing the other one in, we didn't know if the group wanted to put it in, but we just thought it might be another way of reminding them of what we had said all along, that we didn't want to be a part of it. Okay,
Yeah, you shouldn't be bullied into having to accept it just because others are.
yeah. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make council aware is that they agreed with the portion of including tributaries as that they should not be impacted.
Great.
And then to move on to Pembina Area Synergy, there was no meeting, but library, I'm not there, so I think that's all my meetings that I've got marked here.
Kara?
Physician recruitment is next Tuesday to the 24th, and like I said earlier, if you know anybody that's got concerns with the healthcare system, please direct them towards us. We're always looking for help on that committee. And the Community Learning Association meeting is next Monday afternoon.
Okay, for me, we did have a meeting with Alice. There was a fear that we wouldn't meet our targets, but it's funny how, just like the community halls, you say you're not going to meet your targets, and then we had 5 more people come forward with new projects. So they're meeting their targets, and it's quite a committee. They mentioned during organizational meeting they'd like to stay together, but that's for another discussion. Warburg Seed Cleaning Plant, there was supposed to be a meeting yesterday, but it got canceled. And North Saskatchewan Watershed, I'm not on that anymore. So. Okay, technology and investment attraction. I've had several calls from some of the people that are still interested in doing things with us, like Bob Paul and Brisboy, but we haven't had a meeting for quite a while. And I'm not sure where Brian is at. I haven't heard from him lately. Kara, have you?
I was actually dealing with him with something completely different, but he did bring up we should probably have another meeting. We've got the tactical plan, I believe, that needs to go through, so maybe we should look at a date today.
Okay, coordinate that with Brian.
Well, I'll leave that with Rudy. Maybe he's making notes. We need to go through that. I think we've got a few things we need to go.
All right, that's it for me. Meeting dates, the greatest pitch. Anthony,
I move to receive the council reports for information.
discussion. All those in favor? Carried unanimous. The greatest pitch, Olds, Alberta. Go ahead, Glenn.
I move to authorize council's attendance to the greatest pitch, October 11th, 2024, in Olds, Alberta.
That's a Friday?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Discussion, all those in favor? Are you in favor, Cody? Those opposed? That's kind of funny, because that does happen. Somebody will be opposed to something, and they'll go anyway. Member at large open house, prior to October 22nd. This is the one where members at large will give their pitch.
This is because you approved Council 8 policy earlier in the meeting, so now we need to set a date for the open house to have the members at large come and meet you.
So you picked October 22nd? Oh, it has to be prior.
In advance, pending council's schedule.
Okay, you guys, I'll just throw out the 16th. Is that soon enough? Huh? So I was just gonna say, go ahead, Karen.
It's gonna be me. My October is crazy. I could do the evening of the 15th after the council meeting.
Sure.
Okay, the 15th of October, we have a
Make a
council meeting.
motion to have a,
I move to have the member-at-large open house, October 15th. What time? 7 p.m.? 7 to 9. Oh,
okay. Oh, hold it. I might be gone on the, I might be gone anywhere from the 15th to the 21st. That's right. So what about the evening of the, what's on the 14th? Huh? What does that mean? Okay, well, let's see here. The 10th, there's a RPAP convention or something. What, did we talk about the, yeah, that would work. I was. So. So anywhere, was the 10th open for folks? Oh. Yeah, we should be back. We'll be back on the 10th? Okay. Okay, so the following week, yeah, so I'm open the 27th through to the 31st. Does that fit with? So what day are you, what days are you guys suggesting? Throw out a date and we'll get yays or nays. That's our council meeting? Yeah, so we're okay with that? I thought that one got canceled for some reason, but, okay, then let's make a motion before somebody changes their mind. A motion to have meeting with our prospective committee members on October at 7 o'clock. October 1st at 7 o'clock. Glenn?
I move to direct administration to set up a large open house date for October 1st, 7 o'clock.
Here.
At the county office.
Discussion? All those in favor? Carried unanimous. Nikki, are you here with Altalink or Fortis? Altalink? You still with Fortis? You're still with Fortis? All right. Well, and you're ready to go? Oh, I see. Yeah, normally when we see people that are making a presentation, we'll adjust the agenda accordingly to help you guys. All right, so we'll just carry on with business as usual, which is never usual. And we are... Can you take this, Dallas?
Yeah, okay, so we just need 35, item 35C, CAO update session with council date selection. So same thing. What day do you prefer, Rudy? Anytime before, go ahead.
Yeah, whatever works for council, sooner rather than later, I guess.
Don't get choked up. Are you in October?
Yeah, that would be prior to when we leave for AB Munis, right? Yeah, that would work. And just for council's information, like, probably an hour. Just kind of one of those quarterly updates to kind of get ourselves a little synergy before we go into budget meetings.
Okay. There is, but we don't have a team. Yeah, we did. When Deanne was in, she invited us. When Deanne, she was there, so. Okay, so Monday, September 23rd, we have 9 o'clock Emergency Advisory Committee in the morning. So are we trying to squeeze something in the around that time or afternoon? Okay, afternoon.
Rudy can't do that, he's in Parkland County.
In Parkland County on the 23rd. No. The 24th is fine for me. Afternoon the 24th? Great event. Go ahead. Kara, go ahead, yeah.
The 24th is good for me. What time does it work for you, Rudy? 1 p.m.?
Yeah. 1 p.m. is fine. I see on my schedule, Councillor Gunderson and I have a morning tour, so any time from noon on would work for us.
Okay, I move to hold the CAO update session with council on September 24th at 1 p.m.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Well, it's very close to lunchtime, so I'm not sure what you guys want to do. Break for lunch? she's not ready for Freddie. Right. Yeah, okay, let's do that. Okay, yeah, let's break, and Tina let us know. Okay, thank you. We are breaking. We're broke.
Alrighty. I'll call the meeting back to order. I was just talking to Kara, I think we should move the alcohol forward here. Alright, so you guys are on, so give us your names, let us know what's up,
You bet.
and we'll ask you questions.
Sure. Sounds good.
State your name for the record, because we record it all.
Will do. So my name's Colin Harvey. I'm the new Municipal and Community Relations Manager at Altalink. You may have spoken to my predecessor before, John Grove. John retired at the end of June, so I've taken on that position. I also have with me Brendan Pan. He's our Wildfire Systems Operations Engineer. And also with us in the room is Nikki Smith from Fortis, Alberta as well. So thank you for the opportunity to come and present to you. So we wanted to just provide an overview of Altalink's wildfire mitigation plan that we've had ongoing, and just provide some of the information regarding that. So just as a brief overview on Altalink, so we are Alberta's largest transmission facility operator. We've been around since 2002. And came out of when TransAlta sold their regulated assets. And we were more recently purchased by Berkshire Hathaway Energy in 2014. So we have over 13,000 kilometers of transmission lines across the province, over 300 substations. And really, our job is to keep the lights on, and we take a lot of pride in that and providing that safe and reliable power to Albertans. Fortis as well, because it'll play into a little bit of our mitigation plan. You can see on the map there, that dark area is Altalink service territory, and that is shared with Fortis. So we're on the transmission side, and they're on the distribution side. And I'll get into that here in a second. There we go. So this diagram here is just a really good overview of kind of the power flow across Alberta, and just to show where Altalink and Fortis land in that. So starting on the left side, power always starts with the generation, so that can be your hydro, gas, wind, solar, and at those locations they have transformers that push that power up to transmission line or transmission levels. So that moves us into the transmission side. And so from a transmission line perspective, we have transmission lines that range from 69 kilovolts up to 500 kilovolts. And so we don't actually own the power that goes down our lines. We just provide the infrastructure that takes it from point A, from the generation to the loads, wherever that load source is required. So we're one of the TFOs. There's ATCO that serves the majority of northern Alberta, and then EPCOR and ENMAX in Edmonton and Calgary respectively as well. So we have our substations that the power goes to, and at our substations the power gets dropped down to distribution levels, and at that point that's where the distribution companies like Fortis would take that power, or your REAs, your rural electrification associations, and move it to the retailers, who then at the end of the day sell the power to the homes and businesses and farms across Alberta. And so just that, we have that note there about the power pool of Alberta too. So the electricity that's generated in Alberta is sold and bought on the wholesale market, and that's all managed by the Alberta Electric System Operator. So that's how the power prices are set. So moving on to our wildfire mitigation plan. So obviously last year was a brutal year for wildfires. It was the worst in Alberta's history. There were over 1,000 fires started across the province. And a number of AltaLink's assets were damaged during it. And you can see some of the damage that we saw on our assets from some of those fires. And it was our largest restoration effort that we've had to date in being able to get those back up, rebuilt and energized as fast as possible. So of those 1,000 fires, 85 of them were started by electrical infrastructure, so that whether transmission or distribution. And so even though that number is lower in terms of like less than 10%, there is still a risk that remains for potential for electrical infrastructure to ignite fires. So AltaLink's is committed, and we've been working very hard to reduce the likelihood of that along our assets. And we've actually had a wildfire mitigation plan in place since 2019. And as we've learned more and we talk to more industry folks and in the province, we continue to expand and enhance our program to make it as robust as possible. So this diagram here really shows our wildfire mitigation plan as a whole, and I'm just going to walk through the different components of it to provide some context of what AltaLink's doing on each of these points. So starting in the bottom left at the fire threat maps. So AltaLink hired a third-party consultant, and what we had them do is look at our system as a whole and identify areas where there's high-risk, what we've called high-risk fire areas. And what this means is if there was a potential ignition in these areas, there's a greater likelihood of a more impactful fire than in other areas along our system. So it's not saying that outside of these high-risk fire areas, fires may not be able to start. It's just if one was ignited, it could be more impactful than in other areas. So once we identified those really became the focus of our wildfire mitigation plan. And what we've done now is we're actually doing our facility wildfire risk reduction programs in those areas. So we're modifying our transmission lines to reduce the risk. So that's either replacing the insulators, which are those cone strings that hold the conductors to the structure. We're replacing older versions of that with newer, better technology for insulators. We're also removing our wood cross arms on those structures and replacing them with less fire igniting materials, so fiberglass, steel, material like that, because if there's leakage, we have had fires start on those wood cross arms in the past. So by removing those and putting those steel or fiberglass on again, it just reduces that risk. The other aspect we've done is we have enhanced situational awareness monitoring. So that comes in a couple different functions. One is we do get a daily email from a third-party fire expert that looks at the fire weather that's occurring in the province to provide us day-to-day updates as to what the risks are out there, so that we can start to use that information to modify our own operations depending as how the risk increases. We've also added a lot of weather stations and cameras across our network so that we can get some more real-time data as well when we are getting into those higher risk situations. So up to the end of Q2, we added 17 more weather stations across our system, largely near those high risk fire areas. We also are doing some expanding preparedness. So what we're doing in this situation is we're actually, we've increased our engagement with government agencies, with municipalities, and other emergency services. And particularly with our municipalities, we've actually reached out starting at the end of July and have been touching base with all of our municipalities with a questionnaire, just asking for more information on who we should be contacting during emergencies, before, during, and after an emergency. What challenges are those municipalities having? fire, uh, fire response, emergency response, and if there's any other questions. So we have been in contact with Brazeau County and the DEM here, and we had a good conversation with him discussing that in the last little bit. And we've done this across all of our municipalities, so we've reached out to 45 municipalities to get that information. The next piece is our incremental operational practices. So we have increased our vegetation management practices and our inspections in those high-risk fire areas. So making sure the vegetation is clear and good. And by increasing those inspections, we can catch the defects along our system. And if we do catch those get prioritized, and we immediately get those fixed to, again, reduce the risk of any ignitions in those areas. As we move into more extreme fire risk days, we do have some enhanced operational practices we do, which includes, so at our substations, we have these equipment called auto reclosers. So in normal operations, if the line trips or faults, the auto recloser will attempt to re-energize the line right away to minimize disruption to service. When we hit these high-risk fire days, we'll actually turn off those auto reclosers on the lines that are in those areas, and when we do lose the power, if the line does trip, it won't be energized until we actually have boots on the ground able to inspect the line to make sure that the line is safe to energize before we'll turn that line back on. And then last but not least is our what we call our public safety power shutoff, and this is a tool we have in our wildfire mitigation plan to reduce the risk by potentially proactively turning off the power on some of our transmission lines as well. So like I said, it is our last resort. As I said at the beginning, we take a lot of pride in keeping the power on. So the last thing we want to do is ever have any of our transmission lines go down or get turned off. But if we are in a situation where the fire weather is extreme enough and the conditions are dangerous enough that potential catastrophic wildfire could occur, we will proactively turn off the power along our transmission lines in those areas. And not one single factor really trips the public safety power shutoff. We're looking at a variety of conditions. So this diagram kind of shows what we're looking at. So when we're making this decision on entering into a public safety power shutoff, we're looking at the wind conditions, how fast that fire can spread, what the humidity and temperature is looking like. Also, the dryness of the vegetation. Have we been in a dry spell for quite a while? Did it just rain a little while ago? We're also going to have real-time observations. So again, that's utilizing those cameras, those weather stations, or potentially having boots on the ground as well in those areas before we make that decision to turn the power off. And I would say, like, those four grouped as kind of our proactive public safety power shutoff, where we would proactively do it. The last one, being a fire in the vicinity, is more of a reactive public safety power shutoff. And what we're looking at here is if a fire ignites close to one of our lines, we may also at that point look to turn off the power so that we're not potentially creating fires ahead of that fire or creating any additional unsafe situations. So this allows us to turn that power off. And so we're working with Alberta Wildfire if we have fires in our vicinity to make that call as well. So from the public safety power shutoff process, this diagram here really paints a good picture of what Ultalink's doing as we're going through a public safety power shutoff. So as I said, we always get the daily information from our fire expert, monitoring the weather situations out there. As the forecast starts to get to a point where we start looking like we may have to get into a public safety power shutoff, we enter into our public safety power shutoff watch, and once those conditions are confirmed, we'll move into enabling our protocols, which internally gets us aligning with the potential of that public safety power shutoff, and that moves us into our communications protocols are also launched. So at that point, we'll be reaching out to communities to let them know we may be looking to shut that power off in the next days or so. We'll also be working with Fortis on that as well, because as they're the distribution provider in the areas, if we turn the power off, it does have an impact to their system and their customers as well. And so throughout the development of this wildfire mitigation plan, we've worked very closely with Fortis, and they're well informed on our processes, and we've worked together to really move that forward. Once we hit the power off, so the power will remain off until we see that the high-risk conditions are dropping and that the forecasts are showing that we're going to get below those thresholds, at which point we would start to look to re-energize the line. The challenge we have is because the line has been out of service for a while, we don't know if there's any trips or faults on the line in terms of anything leaning on the line that would cause it to trip, or if there's any damage to the line. So before we energize the line, we will get out there again and do on-the-ground assessments or aerial assessments to make sure the line is safe to energize. And once we've been able to identify that that is safe to do so, we will turn the power back on. And at that point, we'll go back to monitoring the conditions as we move forward. So as I mentioned, as we got closer to the public safety power shutoff, our communication, and this is on the proactive side. Obviously, if we're on the reactive side, a fire ignites next to our line and we need to make a quick call to decide whether we need to turn that line off. We may not be able to follow all the steps to this process. We will 100% be in communication with everybody to let them know what's happening, but this is more of our proactive approach. So one of the things we added this year, after talking to other municipalities, is that we've started a weekly status email, where we just send out a weekly email to let our municipalities and our partners know whether we're seeing if there's a potential for a PSPS anywhere on our system, or if there's not. So sometimes it's a very short email, things are looking great. Other times we have a little bit more detail. So Brazeau County is on that email list, and the DEM is getting that information on a weekly basis as well. So once we move into a 7-day forecast, the 7-day forecast is starting to show signs that we're going to be going through, moving over our thresholds for a public safety power shutoff. We will communicate that again through that email, and we'll also be reaching out to the emergency management leads in those areas to let them know that we are starting to look that within the next week we may be looking to shut the power off. And that allows them some lead time to be able to organize on their side. 2 to 4 days out, Altalink would start up our incident command structure, and also a joint information center would be activated. So in that joint information center, we would also bring in other information professionals, so the folks from Fortis, their communications group, our communications group, folks from those municipalities as well. And that just allows to make sure that everybody's on the same page from a communication standpoint, and the same information's going out from all those points. And at that point, this is also where we'd be notifying the municipal leaders and our critical customers that we're 2 to 4 days out from a potential power shutoff. 24 to 48 hours, that's when we would start to notify the public ourselves that this is coming. We'd be providing information on what also the general public can do to prepare for it. And our information officers will be providing regular updates, at least twice daily at that point, to the people who need to know. On the day of the shutoff, same thing. We'll be notifying the public the power is off, and then our information officer will continue with those regular updates. And then same thing, once we see those thresholds clear from the re-energization perspective, we will be notifying the public we're looking to bring the power on. We'll try and give a bit of a window in terms of when we think the power is going to go on. And again, that can change. So if we get out there and we see the line's damaged, the conductor's on the line, on the ground for some reason, obviously it's going to take us longer to get that line re-energized than it would if the line's okay. So we'll be providing those regular updates to let people know roughly when we think that power is going to be turning on. So this diagram here, just really quickly, in the purple line is obviously the boundary for Brazeau County, and the blue lines in there represent Altalink's transmission lines in the area. So we have a number of, mostly 138 kilovolt lines are in there. On the far east side, where we have the 190, 903, and 1325. 903 is a 240 kV line, and the 1325, I believe, is the Waddle line, the HVDC line. So this diagram here shows, so this is from this last fire season in 2024. So these were the fires that we were monitoring in the Brazeau area in terms of fire encroachment. So these were fires that were close to our lines. So this doesn't necessarily represent all the fires in the area, but these were the ones we were tracking when we became aware of them. So we monitor the Alberta Wildfire Dashboard to stay up to date. Brendan does that himself, and so we did end up having outside of Brazeau County on the 828 line and the 848 line. Both of those separately went down in a reactive public safety power shutoff, where we did turn off the power on those transmission lines because of how close those fires were. In this situation, it worked out because we were in the loop. We were able to backfeed the power from different areas, so the de-energizing those specific lines didn't have an impact to the larger area. Do you have anything to add? No. Okay. All right. One thing I did forget to mention, and I'll use the cursor to these little these black lines with the cross hatching here. These are the areas we've identified through that third-party consultant as the high-risk fire areas in Brazeau County. So there's a little one over here, obviously through Drayton Valley, Lodgepole, as well as some of these areas out here have been identified as our high-risk fire areas. And so from the proactive view of the public safety power shutoff, these are the thresholds we're looking at. So the fire weather index, which collectively looks at temperature, humidity, vegetation. Once that goes over top of 60 and we see wind gusts greater than 60 kilometers an hour, that would be where we would be starting to look at doing the public safety power shutoff on lines that would be in that area. This summer, we didn't come close to that in the Brazeau area. So there was going to be no reactive ones there. Or sorry, proactive. So one thing we also did this year was starting about mid-August, and we're kind of getting to the end of it now, we did do a targeted community outreach. And so this was targeted largely to the municipalities that are within the forest protection areas. So we started with a media campaign that started with social media. It expanded to print, newspaper ads, radio ads at the beginning of September. And so this is just a sample of the flyer that we sent out. So it just provides some information on what Altalink's doing from a wildfire safety perspective, the potential for the public safety power shutoff, and where the general public could go for more information on that. We're kind of rounding near the end of that campaign. I think it's ending this week or next. So we have been out active in those areas for that. And then the last piece, this is just a bit of a shout out to this. So as we've been talking to more and more agencies and municipalities, there does seem to be a keen interest to try and share as much information as we possibly can. And Altalink's definitely interested in having those conversations. So where there's cameras, where we have cameras, weather stations where maybe municipalities or other provincial agencies have them, there is more and more conversation about opportunities to share that information, share access to that information. And that is definitely a conversation Altalink's willing to have. We don't have any set processes at this point in terms of how to share, but as we've been talking to folks, it does seem that more and more people are interested in doing that, and that's definitely a conversation we're happy to have. And that is that is kind of our wildfire mitigation plan in a nutshell. So I'd be happy to take any questions if anybody has any.
mountain pipeline. You know,
Okay.
You're a transmission system. So whether it's fluid or electrical lines, it's the same principle.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
Anthony?
On the high-risk areas you spoke of, and I understand from looking at the map, looks like one of them's on the east end. I assume it might be close to Elsite, the way somewhere's in that vicinity, I thought. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's further north.
Over in this general
Yeah.
area, this one? Yeah.
Anyway, is that then, those high-risk fires, is that lightning usually causing, or what's the usual cause that causes those high-risk area fires?
So it's not that we see more ignition in the area, it's just that if a fire was ignited as a result of something failing on our transmission line, there's just a higher potential impact. So that's usually, generally, if we're closer to populated areas, more heavily populated areas, I guess. So that would like be more impactful, so that if the fire was to move, once it ignites and moves, that would be it. So it's not necessarily that we have more ignitions in the area, it's just there's the higher risk of a more impactful
More
fire.
people affected?
Yeah.
Okay, and then with your, I don't know how many kilometers of lines you had, how many of them are steel lines, or steel towers, versus being on wooden power poles? Like, do you know the difference there? Like, is it equal? What's the kilometer ratio there?
I don't actually have that number off the top of my head.
Because I would suspect the power line on steel towers probably has less potential for shutdown and cause from the fire versus the ones with the wooden poles?
Yeah, and that's correct. Yeah, and so all of our, all of our like 240 and 500 kilovolt lines, those are all steel structures. So it's the lower voltages for our stuff. So the 138s and the 69 kV lines, those are the ones that are generally on the wood poles. But you're right. So from the steel pole perspective, like the 240s and 500s from a PSPS perspective will likely not come down because we don't have that same risk as we do with the 138s on the wood poles.
So in the future, when you're bringing us maps, for me anyway, it'd be nice to see maybe two different colors of your lines, the ones that are wood poled lines and the ones that are steel, help better differentiate, in our own mind, the ones that are more at risk from fire.
Mm-hmm. Okay, no, that's helpful.
And then the other question I have is, when you shut down a power line, because as you said, the various reasons you went through that you shut them down, how big a stretch is usually affected by that shutdown? Like, it's not from one end to the other, it's usually probably a segment?
It would be from substation to substation. So it would be that whole segment of line. So
Okay.
it wouldn't be just a portion of that line. It'll be from wherever the power's coming, starting from at the substation to wherever it's going. So it would be that whole transmission line as a whole. We don't have the ability to segment our lines for the most part, so.
Okay, because that would be good to know too, like, when you say fires in area X,
Yeah.
potentially how many people could be affected because of, where your substation shutdown would be?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
No more questions? Go ahead, Glenn.
I think the power shutdown has been a long time coming. I'm glad to see you guys are doing something about that. I've seen windy days where lots of fires are started, but we had a lot of, this doesn't have to do with wildfires, so apologize if it's not your area, but we had a lot of grid alerts, I guess, from the AESO in December. And I see that Berkshire Hathaway is trying to get sustainable power up from the states, but the government's not letting them do that. Do you know why that is, or can you explain it better? Like, from what I understand, it would give us like a base load power at least, right? Or stable energy, cheaper energy.
Yeah, and I'll have to apologize. I don't have enough information
Okay.
with me.
I just read
on
some
that.
stuff online about it. Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Sorry about that.
We're all good? Okay, well, thanks for coming in. Thanks for the presentation. You can
Thanks for
take the
having
rest
us.
of the day off?
What's that?
I said you can take the rest of the day off? Go ahead, Anthony.
Follow up a little bit to what Glenn just asked. We do have situations where when the stream load conditions are on our infrastructure, that we sometimes have had the brownout areas or areas that were, you know, perhaps in danger of being shut down. Do you know, and again, this may, as Glenn said, this may not be your area, but do you know what conditions are used as the basis when they start trying to import, let's say, power from afar, whether it's BC, whether it's from Saskatchewan, wherever, states? Do you know what those conditions are and how they make that adjustment?
So the ISO is the one that manages that in terms of the power flow. So it's not that we don't import power into the province. We definitely do. We do, like our, it's called our 1201 line. It's a 500 kV line that comes through the Crow's Nest Pass up to the Calgary area. That's our, one of the biggest, that is the biggest intertie we have with the province. And we do pull power on that line all the time. And even from the one coming up from the States on the Maddle line with Berkshire, that we do still pull power on that one as well. So if there's a demand within the province because we're not generating enough power inside the province, they'll start to pull that power in to bring that balance up. In the situations during the brownouts, those ones were kind of unique in the sense that we had a couple generating facilities that went down at the wrong time with peak demand, and we didn't have enough internal to pull it all together. Since then, we've actually had more gas generation come online, and so that should help balance that out and not, we shouldn't bump into that same risk as we saw earlier in the year because of those generators coming online.
Okay, because I mean, the more we're finding that individuals are buying, let's say, electric cars, and the more summertime air conditioning, wintertime furnaces, there's a bigger load on our electric infrastructure.
Yeah.
And I think we need to be more prepared to meet those peaks of high load times. Otherwise, all our green initiatives, you know, electric cars and everything else, are going to fall flat on their face if we don't have the power supply.
Yeah, and so the Alberta Electric System Operator who manages the grid across the province, they're looking at that, and they are very aware on trying to make sure that we do have that power supply to manage the increase in EVs and other low emission technology.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, third and final time, we're okay? Thanks.
All right, thank you very much.
Good presentation. Sure. Okay, 5-minute break. All right, so is there any direction coming out of enclosed? Go ahead, Glenn. Okay. Cody, go ahead. No, we're just making motions.
Looks like it's Glenn. Oh, it's Cody now.
Okay.
I move to receive the personnel discussion for information.
Take the chair.
Okay, could I just ask for the repeat of the motion, please? Councillor Cody Brooks.
Sorry. I said I move to receive the personnel discussion for information.
Thank you. Any discussion? Glenn, your mic's on for no reason. Is that
Sorry.
okay? Okay, any discussion? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Those opposed? There are none. Carried. Next. Councillor Donna Wiltsey.
I move to award elevated experience with management contract for Wiley West,
Thank you.
based on the agreed upon terms.
All right, any discussion? Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? One. Motion's carried. Thank you. I'll call the Reeve back in.
I'll sit in your chair. All right, next item, and as long as it's not Wiley West discussion. It's not easy for it. Okay.
I move to approve the Easy Ford Hall contract based on the agreed-upon terms of the service agreement with 2609031 Alberta Limited.
Discussion. All those in favor? Those opposed? Anthony? Yeah. So that's it? Donna's issue? I'm losing my marbles. I can't remember. It was to do with free press, I think, wasn't it? Was that a funding request or just to release the, that you've already set aside?
So to clarify on this issue, I checked with corporate services, and the last motion regarding this issue was to release the funds for 2024. So there is no allocation yet for 2025. So I think the motion then would be to include this consideration in the upcoming budget deliberations.
Well, but wasn't that gonna make it too late? Because then she can't prepare, so I think.
But she just wanted confirmation. She didn't actually want the money.
Cody, go ahead.
Through the Chair of Administration, I was wondering if we could see the motion 74523-1123. I can repeat it. Sorry. I think that's right.
Well, it would have been last
We
year.
made it in 23? I think. So it's 74523-1123. That's what she said, or that's what I wrote down anyway. Maybe it's not what she said. Any chance you could find the, sorry.
I think finance had it.
Oh. That's
But the bottom line is we're releasing $8,200 for the next 2 years each.
Mhm.
That was sort of the gist of it, eh? Pardon me? $8,400.
So if I can clarify the conversation last year, and I believe she was referring to the conversation, not the actual decision last year that council made. So the conversation, as recorded in last year's minutes, Councillor Gunderson asked council to reconsider the request from Drayton Valley Free Press for contributions to their proposed travel guide of $8,400 annually for a 3-year term, as it was contingent on the town funding, and the town has since denied their portion. The ultimate motion that was passed by Councillor Heinrich was to allow Brandy Frederickson to speak to us regarding the Drayton Valley Free Press. That was carried unanimously, and then the next motion was by Councillor Heinrich to approve the proposed Brazeau and Beyond travel guide in the amount of $8,400 for 2024. Carried unanimously.
Okay, so there just.
That is our record from last year.
So there isn't one for 2025 then?
It was discussed, but it was not motioned. Yes. Correct. So there's only a motion for 2024. There's no motion to recognize the 3-year funding agreement.
So So one of two things, we can wait till Brandy comes back when she hears the news to ask for 2025, if that's what she wants. Or you guys could just carry on the discussion from back then, where Glenn had recommended 8,400 for 3 years, but it wasn't a motion. So it's up to you guys what you want to do. You can- Well, there's this year, it's approved already, right?
2024 was approved. Her request was for 2025.
Go ahead, Cody, and then Kara.
Yeah, so she was asking for next year's commitment. So we had it contingent on the town of Drayton Valley. She came in, we removed that contingency, and she got the money from us. And now she's looking for next year's, what we would have budgeted for next year. So I guess the question is, are we going to allocate the money now, or are we going to wait for budget? And she's kind of, I'm not really sure where to stand on this, because generally we wait until budget to do these things. But she's also looking for the commitment, so I don't know exactly where we go from here.
It's a fine line. Kara?
Thank you. The issue is her, obviously her budget cycle doesn't follow our calendar budget cycle. So we have paid the 2024 money, and we've got the 2 magazines, and the next group of money would look after the winter and the summer of 2025. So I think her concern is if, she even said in here, we could pay her in January. She just wants the reassurance that if she's gonna do all this work to put the winter program together, that she has the money. And she said she's willing to do that, but she needs reassurance that she's gonna get paid for it. So whether, and my issue even right now, whether we make a motion now, if we're gonna pay her in January, we might as well just pay her now and get it done. And I have no issue, I know it's not our budget cycle, but her budgeting and calendar doesn't follow ours. So, and I would hate to see something like this, then I guess that's where the conversation's gonna go. I'd hate to lose the publication and the amount of work and advertising that she does for us, because we don't have quote-unquote an economic department in this municipality, and I think for $8,400, it's a drop in the bucket, and it does immense advertising for us. I couldn't think of a better bang for our buck to get Brazeau County and what we have to offer out there. This lady is very passionate. I do travel. I do see magazines and this type of stuff elsewhere. She's top notch. We're pretty lucky to have her in this community, so, and she does a great job.
Anthony?
Yeah, last year we missed out on November and December's program that she would have had for us, and that's what she's trying to ensure, that we can have continuance, and that's why she's asking. So I think it wouldn't hurt for us to make a motion to agree to provide the $8,400 for 2025. We could make that motion, and I think it would give her the assurance she needs, and we still can pay it, on the year end or whatever, if that's what's good. But I think she was here to make sure that we're still intending to move forward.
Okay, so I'll accept the motion then, if that's the
Yeah, I
thinking
mean-
is. Tourism. Yeah, it could be campgrounds. I mean, that's what most of it's about, is camping, hiking, doing something outdoors. Anthony, you got a solution? Your light's on.
Oh, sorry.
Glenn, you got a solution? No?
As soon as you start asking for solutions, lights turn on.
Yeah, it's French. It's for the year. Okay. It couldn't be better, there just could be more. All right, discussion? All those in favor? Carried unanimous? All right, are we all done, folks? Been exhausting.
I move adjournment.
Thank you. Discussion? All those in favor?